Follow the 2021-22 Premier League season on the OneFootball app, with breaking news stories, match stats and live scores. Get customized push notifications to receive team news, goal alerts and more. Download it for free, the link is in the description. 83 points in Gameweek 12 saw a healthy green arrow up to 52k, despite the high-risk differential captain fail, bailed out in the end by those double-digit scoring defenders. There was a huge slice of good fortune with Rafinha missing out through illness to allow Rudiger to come in, after placing him first on the bench ahead of Saka in the final team. And the decision to go through with the move to bring in Reece James, selling Diaz rather than Rudiger, was also key. Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo each created big chances, ranking first and second respectively for expected assists amongst defenders in Gameweek 12. The Liverpool right-back ranked joint top with tallies of 3 shots and 4 attempted assists. After a positive start for the Gunners, they fell to pieces under some intense pressing from Liverpool in the second half, which forced them into mistakes time after time. Mohamed Salah was made to wait for his goal, but in the end it could have been so much more. Brentford's 6-goal thriller with Newcastle finally saw an end to Ivan Toney's barren streak, though Cardallo should probably have done better with what was ultimately a fairly routine shot. Toney was later denied a second when he tapped in a rebound from a marginally offside position, after Brian Mbeumo had struck the post yet again. Raul Jimenez scored the only goal between Wolves and West Ham, but it sadly wasn't to be for Harry Kane. Spurs showed some encouraging signs in the second half, where almost immediately Kane broke clear of the defence and fired a powerful low effort between the legs of Illan Meslier, who got just enough of a touch to divert it onto the post. So let's move on to discuss the future transfer plans ahead of Gameweek 13. For the most part, the team is in good shape, with midfield perhaps the weakest area. It's definitely viable to save a free transfer, and that is what I'm leaning towards doing, but Ben Chilwell is a player that continues to impress me. He could have come away with so much more than his 9 points against Leicester, with 3 attempted assists and 3 shots, one of which he fired against the crossbar. In the last 6 game weeks, no defender has taken as many as his 26 touches in the opposition penalty box, and he leads the way for expected goals. He's taken the lion's share of corners for Chelsea in that time, with 25, compared to 4 by Reece James and 3 by Mason Mount. In fact, only James Ward-Prowse and Heung-min Son have taken more. It's just a case of whether it's worth making that somewhat sideways move to him from Antonio Rudiger. Given that we're about to enter the busy Christmas period, with midweek matches starting from Gameweek 14, it could be the centre-back's time to shine. Whilst his ceiling may not be quite as high as the wing-backs, he's still recorded 2 big chances in the last 6 game weeks, with only Chilwell and Cancelo producing more than his 12 attempts at goal amongst defenders. The other main target ahead of Gameweek 13 is Diogo Jota, assuming he's able to overcome his knee problem. He took his goal really well against Arsenal, and that 10 or 15 minute spell at the start of the second half saw Liverpool at their absolute best, totally relentless and unstoppable. It would have to be Rafinha making way to accommodate Jota, but if the Brazilian recovers from his illness in time to face Brighton, it'll be tempting to let him see out the next 3 game weeks, with home matches against Crystal Palace and Brentford to come. The Leeds talisman has 4 goals in his last 6 appearances, with only Salah able to better his 24 shots in that time. We'll see what the midweek matches and press conferences bring later in the week, but for now, here's how the team is set to line up for Saturday's Gameweek 13 deadline. It'll be interesting to see how Arsenal respond after their 10-match unbeaten run in all competitions came to an end. They'll be hoping to bounce back against the Newcastle side that have recorded the 2nd lowest expected goals figure in the last 4 game weeks. But following the appointment of new manager Eddie Howe, they recorded the 7th best XG last game week, scoring 3 goals. The big 3 in defence are certain starters, but Antonio Rudiger's place is once again up for debate, as controversial as that may sound after his 14-point haul last game week. Chelsea have only allowed 1 goal against them in the last 4 game weeks, recording the lowest XG conceded figure. But it's the unknown entity that is this Man United side, post Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's departure, that causes concern. Much of the decision will depend on how United look against Villarreal midweek. Assuming Rafinha is past fit to start, Brian Mbeumo would be the alternative candidate to make way, to allow Rudiger into the 11. He's without a return across his last 4 outings, but has been desperately unlucky, striking the woodwork 3 times in that spell, and seeing a goal and assist ruled out for marginal offsides. Bukayo Saka will come back into the starting lineup ahead of Newcastle's visit. He's been overshadowed by Emile Smith-Rowe in recent weeks, but much of Arsenal's attack still goes through Saka. No teammate has carved out as many as his 8 attempted assists in the last 4 game weeks, and only Aubameyang has fired more than his 7 shots in the box. In the last 4 game weeks, Ivan Toney ranks 3rd best amongst forwards for shots, while only Aubameyang has landed more on target. Brentford host an Everton side decimated with injuries, and once again without key midfielder Abdoulaye Doucouré. In the last 4 game weeks without him, they've conceded 10 goals, with only Norwich and Man United shipping more, and they have the 2nd highest expected goals conceded figure. Raul Jimenez has been directly involved in 3 goals over the last 4 game weeks, with only Aubameyang, King and Benteke able to better his 3 big chances amongst forwards. No side have conceded more goals than Norwich during that period, but the Canaries made a positive start under new manager Dean Smith last weekend. Whilst I do still think the goals will come for Harry Kane over these next 3 matches, there's surely only one man for the armband this game week. Liverpool were on the top of their game in the second half against Arsenal, where the crowd played their part after the tussle between Arteta and Klopp. If there were any doubts cast by those points dropped to Brighton and West Ham, that performance has certainly put them to bed. Salah remains at Anfield this weekend to welcome Southampton, who in fairness have been solid at the back recently, barring that slip up against Norwich. Even in the 2-1 defeat, they afforded the Canaries just 0.3 expected goals. In the last 4 game weeks, only Man City and Chelsea have shipped fewer goals than Southampton, and their 2.37 expected goals conceded figure ranks 2nd best behind the league leaders. So it won't be easy, but there's no way I'll be backing against the Egyptian this time.